How to trip safely and the dark side of tripping. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about what you can do if you choose to use psychedelics, to use them in the safest manner as possible. I'm going to be talking about some differences between the most common psychedelics and how they affect you. And I'm just going to basically give a little manual here to you that explains what you need to know before you get into this, or what it is best to know before you get involved. So, the first thing is, psychedelics have a very bad name, and there is some reason behind that. They can be dangerous. Mostly what you do while you're on the substance is the dangerous part. Usually, the majority of psychedelics are actually very safe for you to use for your body. It's more your mind that you have to worry about. Some people have reported having horrific trips where it's like going through hell. I've experienced one like this where half of the trip was like this. And to some people who do not have as much existential fortitude as others, it might destabilize them mentally following the trip. This is why it's important to know the proper dosages of whatever substance you choose to take, and to take a lower amount than normal to start. You want to start low and ease your way up. The experiences can get much more profound, spiritual, and life-transforming at higher doses, but you need to get some psychedelic experience under your feet before you move on to these high-dose trips. The ones that people talk about, heroic doses of mushrooms and stuff like that, and taking really crazy amounts of psychedelics, crazy doses. It's kind of glorified in some circles online, and I would say there is reason for it to be glorified, but there's also reason to be very careful if you ever choose to do something like a heroic dose. There have been horror stories of people tripping and never coming back to reality the same way, and it ruins their life. So, we have to respect those rumors as being potentially true, and we have to realize at the same time, though, that done safely, there can be much less risk to using psychedelics. One thing I will say is that for me personally, psychedelics are worth it. I even have a psychotic mental health disorder, bipolar disorder type 1, and generalized anxiety disorder. People with disorders such as these need to be extremely careful when using psychedelics. I've been sent into multiple manic episodes using different substances, and this always happened when I took the highest dose of that substance that I ever have. One thing you need to realize too is that once you start having these profound, infinite, beautiful spiritual experiences, which is the peak of what psychedelics can show you in a sense, it's kind of the peak, kind of not, but once you have these experiences, they are going to change your life, and you might put yourself into a spiritual awakening that might never stop. Now, that's a good thing, but it might not look like a good thing to people on the outside. You might be the happiest you've ever been. You might be smarter than you were before. You might be more productive even. But you will change. Even if you don't change to have a permanent spiritual awakening that never goes away, even if that doesn't happen, you're still going to change. You're going to change your beliefs. If you're a religious person, your notion of God is going to be completely transformed 100%. It's almost the opposite. Like what most people who are religious, who believe in God, what most of them believe God is is almost like the opposite of God, of what God actually is. But anyway, we're talking about psychedelics here, not just spirituality. So some of the safest psychedelic to use, according to the research, is psilocybin magic mushrooms. They were found in a study to be safer than marijuana when judging by hospitalizations, or it was emergency room visits, not hospitalizations, for the number of times people used the substance compared to how many times someone actually goes to the emergency room. Magic mushrooms were found to be the safest illegal drug that there is. And that's pretty astounding. They're physically safer and actually even mentally safer than marijuana, because if we're looking at this study and using it as our basis for understanding, sorry, I got distracted a little bit. I had a notification pop up on my phone. But basically what I'm saying here is psilocybin magic mushrooms are incredibly safe when used in proper doses. And you can avoid much of the trouble that comes with psychedelics by using the correct amount. And that's going to be different for everyone, and it's going to take you time to get there, to figure out what dose is best for you. But I would stress again, start at a low dose and slowly build your way up, if you even want to keep going up. Some people might be perfectly okay with taking 1 gram of mushrooms instead of 5. And if you're fine with that and you're fine with those realizations that you have and that's enough for you, then stop there. But if you yearn for more, if you want to know the deepest secrets of the universe, understand how everything works, understand what God is, understand how you are God, all of this, and become a more conscious, self-actualized person, higher doses will be useful for you. But I would really just stress, don't take a high dose just because, you saw it somewhere online or someone says that you should. If the dose that you're taking is low and it's working for you, keep doing that until you're no longer satisfied with it. Now, let's talk specifically about the 2 psychedelics that I have experience with. Those are magic mushrooms and LSD. For me personally, LSD is like taking a psychedelic, but also taking a little bit of methamphetamine. It makes me very energized. I want to talk a lot. I want to meet people. I want to be out doing things, which can be very dangerous, especially if you don't have someone watching over you the whole time. It's very dangerous to leave your house on a psychedelic, and that's exactly what LSD led me to do on 2 of the 2 higher dose trips that I took. Magic mushrooms, however, for me, taken at higher doses, keep me in one place. I'm tripping so hard that I can't really, it's not feasible for me to go outside and do something that might harm my life. And in that way, magic mushrooms are a very good psychedelic for me. They have led to a manic episode before, but they weren't a direct cause such as LSD was. But anyway, that's talking about bipolar disorder. Not everyone here has bipolar disorder, so I don't want to focus too much on how it affects my mental health. This video is meant to be more of a generalized video. So those are some effects. Now that I've told you the bad side of psychedelics and given you some warnings, I want to tell you about some of the good things. You can have spiritual realizations that are on par with what some of the most popular and successful spiritual masters have ever achieved or experienced. And I'm talking specifically about Jesus Christ, the Buddha, Muhammad, any spiritual master throughout all time. You can have awakenings just as deep as them, maybe even deeper. You can find out truth that they did not even know. And when you use psychedelics, it's almost like a symbiotic relationship. You know, you work with the mushroom or the LSD or whatever, and it becomes a part of you, and it changes you in a good way for most people. I think for most people, tripping is a good thing. There are people who shouldn't trip, and these are mainly people who don't want to trip anyway. They're at a normal human level of consciousness, and they don't want to go any higher, really. They simply don't care. So these substances are not for them. But some of the things that have happened to me are multiple times I realized that I have always been God. If you're confused by that statement and think that that's impossible, I have a video titled Explaining How I Am God. Watch that. It'll make a lot more sense afterwards. But you can become directly conscious that you are the creator manifesting in a human form, a limited human form, but your soul or your spirit is in full union with the creator at all times, and you are simply not aware of it. This helps you become aware of it. Taking psychedelics help you become aware that you are the creator. Now, this is one of the deepest insights that you can have on psychedelics when it comes to spirituality. You also go into realms of experience that no one has ever seen before and no one will ever see or experience again. That's how they're kind of like marginalized experiences. It's just you can see things that are so bizarre or beautiful or horrible or whatever. You can see things on psychedelics that actually transcend spirituality. It's a different type of experience all in and of itself. I like to say that there are 3 modes of experience. That is normal consciousness, such as being sober or drinking alcohol or taking drugs other than psychedelics. Those all operate within the normal state of consciousness. And then you have spiritual experience, which you can get without psychedelics through meditation or yoga or just randomly happening. There are many things that can cause spiritual awakenings. So that's the second. And the third is psychedelic experience. Now it gets a little hairy here because psychedelic experience can merge with spiritual experience, because psychedelics will give you, if you do them long enough and also read about spirituality and learn about it and become focused on it, you will have spiritual trips if that is your goal. It is totally achievable. But psychedelics can give spiritual experiences, but they also can give something that is not necessarily spiritual anymore, but it is in its own realm. And there was an example I had actually on my most recent mushroom trip. I experienced incredibly bizarre things. And it's not like I was seeing these things or hallucinating these things. These were more thoughts happening at this level of consciousness. But an example of what I'm talking about is, imagine that there's a baby. And that baby, the bottom half of that baby is a large screw. And that baby is screwed into a wall. And that baby is unscrewing from the wall actively, and that baby has like a spigot handle knob, like little round knob, coming out of its eye. And when you turn it, liquid platinum shoots out of the baby's anus. And I could keep going on with bizarre things. I could make it much more bizarre than that. I could keep going. But that is what we're talking about. That was the third mode of experience. Experiencing consciousness where that was experienced, where that was what I was going through, was having consciousness of the bizarre. The most bizarre things that you can imagine. Actually, more bizarre things than a person who hasn't done psychedelics can imagine. So there's a third realm of experience. But psychedelics can also help with mental health disorders, such as depression, anxiety, PTSD, in my opinion, bipolar disorder, but you have to be very careful with that because you can trigger manic episodes. And one thing that psychedelics will surely do is they will evolve you as a person. Rather than believing in a normal religious God, like in Christianity and that understanding of what God is, you will come to realize what God truly is. You can, while having these experiences. You can have a lot of epiphanies and realizations regarding different cultural things, such as, let's just use the example of Black Lives Matter. There aren't many conservatives that use psychedelics because conservatism actually comes at a lower stage of cultural development and personal development. It's a very closed off, restrictive way of viewing the world. And I'm not, dissing anyone who is conservative. I'm just letting you know the fact of the reality of the situation is, as you evolve more as a human being, you will start to become more liberal in some ways. So it will change your political views. It will change your religious views. It will change your understanding of many topics. And I could go on. There are many benefits to using psychedelics. Some people microdose psychedelics to make them more productive or help with depression. And there are so many uses for psychedelics. They're being used for weight loss now. Psilocybin magic mushrooms are being used for weight loss. Microdosing them has shown to help people lose weight tremendously. Psilocybin magic mushrooms have been the most successful thing to help people quit smoking. They help with addiction. Their iboga helps people get off of heroin and other very hard drugs, very addictive drugs. There are many different psychedelics, and it's important that if you choose to use psychedelics, that you know the risks of the specific psychedelic that you're taking. They're not all created equal. How I said that shrooms were the safest, there are many others that are not. And there are even some that you can overdose on. Something like Amanita muscaria mushrooms. Those aren't psilocybin mushrooms. But those taken in a high dose could kill you. So you just have to do your research and know the risk versus reward of what you're doing. And if you proceed cautiously and don't act too quickly when taking psychedelics and take too much, if you don't do that and you go with a more careful approach, the chance of you having anything really bad happen to you is pretty small. It is still there, but it's pretty damn small. Especially if you follow everything that I've said in this video and you look up the doses and you go up slowly, and especially if you don't have mental health disorders like I do, the chance of something bad happening, other than just having a bad trip, is almost zero. So anyway, I've given you guys a rundown on some concerns to have when taking psychedelics, and I've explained some of the benefits. And I could explain more on both ends, but I think that this video is good where it's at, and I'm going to sign off. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. If you like this content, please subscribe to my channel. I make a lot of content just like this, focused on psychedelics, and also spirituality and some other things, but those are the main focuses: spirituality, mental health, and psychedelics. That's what my channel is about. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day.